I'll come back to the India alliance bit, Srini sir, and to you, now that the allies feel that they were shortchanged by Congress's approach in these assembly elections. Now, what would be the approach of Congress now? Of course, they will not be on a position of strength to bargain with other political parties, but will Congress emerge as a cohesive force now? Or will it be treated as a weaker force by the other parties? Just want to understand the dynamics, how it will play out when the India Alliance meeting happens.
Yeah, I think the Congress party will be slightly more chastened now. When they will sit with others, they'll be slightly more moderate in their approach, because Congress party had begun to believe that it has got the momentum as the election campaign was going, and some of the leaders, in fact, had begun to speak a bit arrogantly. They were, in fact, were more confident of basically. In fact, there's one Congress leader who told me that if we have to renegotiate DMK, we must have more than two-digit tickets in the forthcoming parliamentary elections. So that swag will certainly will go. But on the other hand, I'm not very sure if to be fair to Congress party, the whole alliance wasn't made for assembly elections. It was meant for parliament election. They made it very clear right from the beginning, because it's a two-way. It works two-way, both the ways. If the Congress hadn't done well in these elections, they stood a very little chance of being accepted as a part of a coalition. And if they did very well, then there was another problem. So they had to walk the tightrope. So to understand from that perspective, it was a tightrope for Congress party. But if you look at the results, and I have to recheck again the vote share of what BSP has got, what SP has got. I think in the Bundelkhand region in Madhya Pradesh, they haven't managed very. Last time, I think they were leading in 7 and or they had 6 MLAs, something like that.
No, last time they had 1 MLA.
The 1 MLA, 6 seats they were leading, or second, I think, good second or something.
No, they were second on 3 seats, and they had won 1 seat.
Okay, but this time I think the vote share is even lower. So
much lower.
Much lower. So one has to check that out. So whether
lower than the BSPs.
Yeah. In fact, in one place I noticed that Aam Aadmi Party is lower than Nota. So, these claims, obviously, all parties have their own ambition of expanding into newer territories, but then they all also have to take into account the ground reality. So it had been traditionally a two-way fight between BJP and Congress in at least these 3 states, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, and Rajasthan. And in that sense, probably Congress was playing it the way you described. But they could have been at least more tactical in that. Instead of calling who's Akhilesh, Vikhilesh, the Congress leaders could have been more careful in dealing with them. So these kind of things do ruffle the feathers. I think going forward now, since the meeting has already been called by the Congress president, I think they would have much more meaningful dialogue now than what they had earlier. It's for Puneet to say actually what is probably will happen on the ground as he watches Congress much more closely.
Yes, Puneet, over to you, and then we'll wind up the show then. Yeah.
Well, as far as the India Alliance is concerned, I think, and I would have to say that to an extent, I think this is a result that benefits the alliance.
Yes.
Because you have a Congress that will not be able to come back on a high horse to the top stable. They'll have to come with their heads bowed with a sense of humility and embarrassment, because the product that was shown to the India Alliance before the results was very different from what has been delivered. And so I think negotiations would be a little easier. But at the same time, let us also not forget that, it would also mean that the allies that they want to have an alliance with will also need to be just as pragmatic. You cannot have a situation where, because the Congress has performed very poorly in Madhya Pradesh, and the friction that we saw between Akhilesh and Kamal Nath during those negotiations. You cannot have a situation where tomorrow when you discuss, because they have to discuss it state-wise, if you are discussing state-wise analysis, coalition, and you sit down with Akhilesh to talk about UP, and he suddenly says that, okay, I'll give you these many in UP, provided you give me 4 Lok Sabha seats in Madhya Pradesh. Because they will have to factor in their own presence. Just because the Congress has performed very poorly in these assembly elections should not be a ground for the allies to demand an unfair amount of seats from the Congress either. So it has to cut both ways. That's something that I think I see the alliance, the talks progressing on.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.